Coach Stallings, presented by newlifeart.com. Newlifeart.com, the great portraits, the great gallery of Daniel Moore. You can find it newlifeart.com. Coach Stallings, I hope you've had a great week, sir. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Ryan, how you doing? I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make any difference, but Alabama's the best team in the country, and that just shows that we need a different process on picking them.
Well, and certainly you look at Alabama at that number 2 spot, and I don't know if Coach Saban will use this. He may not. He may use it, but he could probably sell it that it's disrespectful to put Alabama at that number 2 spot.
Well, it is. I mean, I just can't imagine. I will guarantee you, if Alabama plays Georgia in the championship game, Alabama will be a 12, 14-point favorite.
Well, and the one thing that when you look at Georgia, Coach, they're such a one-dimensional football team. I mean, they had 7 passes against Florida, and that's – I know they probably didn't need much more than that, but it's hard to beat Alabama being a one-dimensional football team. Yeah,
and Alabama's an outstanding defensive team, good special teams, good. They just a good football team. I just can't imagine whoever's on the committee picking them number 2. Doesn't make all that much difference, because if you got to, what you got to be is in the top 4. But they're just the best football team in the country, and that's the reason I feel like that the committee ought to consist of former coaches that have had some success and in the College Hall of Fame and had national championship teams, and let them pick the best teams in the country, best 4.
Well, and Coach, when you have a small selection committee, there is some former coaches, but there's been some geographically, like some people that you scratch your head and you're going, okay, you got a president of a university, really not a lot of experience. I mean, he's got a Harvard MBA and a Rhodes Scholar who earned his PhD from Oxford. Those things are great, but I don't know if he could tell you what a football team really looks like.
That's right, and a lot of athletic directors never have coached. We're talking about picking the best football teams. Unless you've coached and been there, it's just hard for me to understand how you can be as objective as somebody that's coached.
Well, and I think coaches, the way that you've looked at it, and you've talked to us about it, is you've said, what would be the team that you probably wouldn't want to match up against. And I think
right.
I think most people would say probably Alabama if you surveyed a lot of coaches.
Yeah, I guarantee you nobody wants to play against Alabama, and that includes Georgia. And but anyway, that's the way they're picked. The way I had them picked, I had Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and Wisconsin as the 4 best. But it'll have a way of working its way out, just like Clemson. Clemson, I'm glad that Clemson is ranked number 4, but they were beat by a team that wasn't even ranked. And you take Ohio State, they beat a team that was the number 2 team in the country. So anyway, and how they pick out these teams, I really don't. I'm glad I'm not on the committee. Let me say that.
I can imagine. Coach, I'm just curious, as we look back at the weekend, there was some great college football. Anything grab your attention?
Mississippi State beating Alabama. I mean A&M. The way that they did. That means that this week A&M plays Auburn, and that's an important game for both teams. The A&M coach is fighting for survival, and he needs to win the game. The Auburn coach is fighting for recognition and getting in the top 20 and having a good bowl game. So that's going to be a good game. But I would not have believed that Mississippi State would beat Texas A&M in College Station 35-14.
Coach, this is a crazy year when we talk about, even that this is the conversation. We could lose 50% of the coaches right now in the SEC, and it may be because of some people going other places, but we've already seen one move, but there's likely several more moves in the SEC. That's just a crazy year. Yeah,
well, Arkansas and Arkansas and Tennessee, Mississippi. That's 3 or 4 teams. It looks to me like they're going to make a change, and you know, the way we're paying coaches, we don't have any tolerance. We want instant success. We want instant tea, instant pudding. We want instant success. And sometimes it takes a while to build a football team.
Well, Coach, a lot of people, you know, because of the tradition that you and Coach Bryant and obviously Coach Saban have built here in Tuscaloosa, everybody wants to be like Alabama. It's a little easier said than done.
No question about that. And you've got to, in order to have a successful program, the way you've got to have good facilities, because whether it's right or wrong, indifferent, a lot of these high school recruits go where they have the best facilities. That's the reason we're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on facilities. And but you got to have the player to win, and you win games with players, not schemes. And if it takes the facilities to do it, then that's what you got to do. Just like tradition is awfully important. That's the reason a lot of players go to Alabama, because they think they'll have a chance to go to the next level and have a chance to be successful and a chance to win the national championship. And all these things are important. And the bottom line, we go to school for an education. And somewhere along the line, that gets lost in the crack.
Coach, let me go back, and I missed this question. I should have asked you a couple of questions ago. But looking at Kirby Smart, now the #1 team at Georgia, how difficult is that to manage now, because you're no longer the hunter, you're the hunted?
Doesn't make a whole lot of difference. If whoever they're playing, they've got to play extremely well anyway. They're playing South Carolina this week, and they're by far a better football team in South Carolina. That doesn't necessarily mean that they'll win, but they're not putting a lot of stock in and how they're ranked right now. I guarantee you that Georgia is giving all their consideration to beating South Carolina. That's just like Alabama. They're not worried about being ranked #2. They're worried about playing LSU, because LSU is capable. Now, I don't think they're good enough, but they're capable of giving Alabama a good tussle, and they just don't quite have the people that Alabama has. But tradition is not necessarily on their side, but it's not against them either. When you play LSU, you play a good, tough football team.
Coach, is there one game against LSU that stands out to you?
I guess Sean Alexander, he had an awfully good second half, and seemed we won the game 40-something points, I guess. And they were asking me after the game about Sean Alexander, and I said, he's a good football player, but we've got two better than he is right now. And I said, one of these days he's going to be good. And of course, he was awfully good, not only at Alabama, but good in the pros. But that game probably stands out. And when I was at Texas A&M, now this game really stands out. A&M playing LSU in Baton Rouge. We were behind 1 point. We had the ball on the 1 yard line. Might have been behind 2 points, I'm not sure, but had the ball on the 1 yard line. We were going to run a little off tackle play, and then if we didn't make it, going to kick a field goal and win the game. Ran off tackle, and the A&M player bounced outside. Now he's trying to score. He fumbles the football. The football goes right over the pylon. We didn't have instant replay and all that. Went right over the pylon. Well, the rule being that if it went out of bounds before it went over the pylon, it was A&M's ball on the 1 inch line. If we say it went over the other way, then it's a touchback, and it's LSU's ball on the 20. Well, the officials were in the huddle discussing it, and Charlie McClendon, coach at LSU, he was in the huddle with them. I'm over on the far side. And anyway, after about 5 or 10 minutes of discussing it, they gave the ball to LSU on the 20-yard line. I believe it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me officiating in my career, but I remember that very well when we were playing in Baton Rouge.
I can only imagine the emotions that you showed on that sidelines, Coach.
No, you can't. You can't believe. But anyway, we probably kicked the ball on third down anyway, but we didn't.
Well, Coach, I certainly want to get to some phone calls, but I talked to you last week about the newspaper article, and I'm going to fax that to you. I promise you, I'm going to fax it to you. But also, there was something in Southern Living that was published on their website, and it's meeting this Alabama super fan. And it also mentioned you as well because you got something started many, many years ago with Mr. Walt Gary. You started that on Thursday night. I think you would go to the football practice. He's still doing that 22 years later.
I know Walt well, and I know his grandmother and granddaddy, and what an outstanding little human he is, and he loves Alabama.
He does, and it's a great little video. There's no way I can send it to you, but it's a video, and it's they call him Alabama super fan. And it's just an awesome video. But he talked about how you started it in 22 years, and the tradition's still there, and how the players embrace him, and it's fun, and you can see it makes his day every time he's out at the football complex.
When Johnny, he absolutely loved the players. He knew every player's name, every trainer's name, every coach's name. He loved to go to practice, and the players loved for Johnny to go because my demeanor, for whatever reason, would always change. I could be in a bad frame of mind, and Johnny would come up. Cedric would bring him up, and regardless of what session was in, I'd always I'd excuse myself and go over and just visit with Johnny for just a few seconds. And the players loved for Johnny to come to practice.
There's no doubt. Coach Stallings, let's take some phone calls. These guys have been waiting for about 35 minutes here. Let's go to Red, as always. Red, good afternoon. You're on with Coach Gene Stallings.
Good evening, Coach. I hope you're doing well, sir.
Red, I'm doing fine. Absolutely gorgeous day in this part of the country, and thought we was going to get some rain. Got a little piddling, but we didn't get much, but it's a gorgeous day.
That's great, Coach. Hey, Coach, what is your most favorite thing to do on the ranch that makes you just forget about anything else going on in the world?
Well, everything about it. I enjoyed checking the cattle and looking at the newborn calves and seeing that they're up and running and the cows are well fed. There's a whole lot of work that I don't particularly now enjoy. I do it because it needs to be done. But the enjoyment part is around the animals.
That's great, Coach. One other thing, Coach. Have you ever invited any of the local high school football players to your ranch to teach them how to mend a fence?
Yeah, I've had some of them to come out and when we bale hay and put it in small bales, and I'd need some help to hauling, putting it in the barn. In fact, I'd ask the local trainer to give me a couple of players. And I remember one time they had me a quarterback and two or three others, and lo and behold, the quarterback didn't get sick on the first. We had made one load of hay, and he was sick, so I sent him to the pickup and said, just go sit in there and get some air. But anyway, I like to use them when I can.
That's great, because they couldn't learn discipline and how to be a great young man from a better man than you, Coach. And we love you, Coach, and tell Miss Ruth Ann hello, and God bless y'all, sir.
Good talk to you, Red.
Hey, Coach, I'm just curious, what type of cattle do you have? What is the do you have a certain breed that you like to specialize in?
Well, I had what you call Bonds Mora. That's a red animal, and one more good deal, and I'm broke. The guy said, I've got a good deal for you, and anyway, that's neither here nor thither. But since that time, I've got some black bulls, and I still have a lot of red cows, but I'm putting Charolais and Angus bulls on them and getting a good crossbred. In this part of the country, they like a black calf rather than a red calf.
All right. Let's go 205-342-9904. JK, you're next up with Coach Stallings.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Ryan. How you feeling today?
Done fine, JK.
Coach, are you watching the World Series with Houston in it?
I am. I've watched two or three of the games, and I'm going to watch it this afternoon unless it gets too late. But I tell you, it's been a great series, the games I've watched.
It has been an exciting one. Coach, it seems to me that they've added instant replay to the World Series, and they're getting this thing down to the millisecond, especially on close calls on first base. What do you think of that instant replay? When they just break it down, they take it out of the ref's hands, and they just kind of leave it up to science and the videos to give us our information. What do you think about taking the judgment of the referee out of the game and putting it all on video?
Well, now, when I was coaching, even in pro ball, I was opposed to instant replay. Nobody likes to be overruled in front of 50 million people. You got to make a decision, and you make it fast. You're not going to be right on all of them. And the instant replay delays the game quite a bit. The game's long enough, so if everything else about the game was perfect, coaches make mistakes, players make mistakes, officials make mistakes, and yet we want perfect officiating. It just doesn't make sense to me. The rest of the game is not perfect. If it was, then go ahead and have it. But I'm opposed to instant replay. I said let the officials make the call and let it fall where it may. I can't ever remember winning a game because of a good call that I got officiating.
Coach, one more question. What is the toughest environment in college or professional ball that you ever played in?
Toughest environment. Well, when I was coaching in the pros, playing in the Redskins was a tough environment because they were very passionate about the Redskins, whether or not it was with the Cowboys or the Cardinals or wherever. That was a tough environment. Baton Rouge, I've always felt like Baton Rouge and Tennessee are tough environments to play a game in. They're very passionate about their team, and they support them extremely well. I'd say Alabama's a tough place to play a game, too.
So you think Bryant-Denny, that other teams are saying Bryant-Denny's a tough place to play?
I would think that the majority of the opponents that play there would say that that's the toughest place. Now, this is just a personal opinion, but I'm opposed to everybody hollering and yelling when the opposing team is trying to snap the football. I think the game ought to be settled between the players, and not because a player can't hear. And yet you see somebody jump off sides and they just can't hear. And when that happens, the crowd gets louder and louder and makes more racket and hollering. And I just don't think that's in the spirit of the game. Nobody else believes that way, but that's my personal opinion.
Well, Coach, God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let's pull Bama through this tough game this weekend, and hope I get to talk to you again next week, Coach.
Okay, thank you, and good to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you, J.K. Let's go to Ellis in Manchester, Tennessee. Ellis, good afternoon. You're on with Coach Gene Stallings.
Good evening, Coach Stallings.
Ellis, how you doing?
Just fine, sir. I'm glad to hear that you're doing okay.
I'm doing fine, taking some therapy and doing some walking and working around the ranch a little bit, not overdoing it, but I'm feeling pretty good. Thanks for asking.
That's a good thing. And I just wanted to hear a good while back, I heard you talk about a certain player that was on your team, and you said he was like the best one ever, and that's David Palmer. And I'm a firm believer in that. I believe he could play just about anything.
Yeah, he could play any position. He could be a wide receiver, a defensive back, a quarterback, a running back. He was just an athlete, and he was blessed, and he was an outstanding football player. I've had a lot of good ones, and you hate to rank them, but he's right up at the top, I'll assure you.
I used to love to watch him run and do what he did, but that's all I got to say today. But again, it's glad to hear your voice and hear that you're doing okay.
I appreciate it, and thanks for asking.
Well, Coach,
yes, sir.
Thank you, Ellis. We appreciate that. Coach, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to talk with you each and every week, and certainly enjoy the conversation today. Hopefully you have a great evening and watch a little baseball, and we'll talk to you next week.
Let me ask you, what's the feeling on Alabama and LSU there in Tuscaloosa?
Well, Coach, I think this ranking might hurt them a little bit. 21.5 points right now, according to the experts out in the desert. We talk about the odds.
It's going to hurt who?
Well, I think it'll hurt LSU because
I do too. I'd hate to be LSU right now.
Yeah, because something tells me that Coach Saban might remind him, you're number 2 this week. They don't respect you. And obviously, Coach, I know they've scored a lot of points, but they've played a lot of second and third team. They could beat these teams 80-3 if they wanted to, but they played a lot of second and third string their backup players. So it's certainly I think this ranking may be flipped before it's over. They've got a chance.
I don't think there's any question about it. And eventually, Alabama's going to play Georgia in the championship game anyway, so it'll all be settled later on.
Yeah, but it's a LSU and Alabama's become a very unique rivalry, but with the Coach Saban's ties back to Baton Rouge, and the players highly respect LSU. It's always a lot of fun. That's all you get out of it. If you ask either one of these players in Tuscaloosa or in Baton Rouge, there's a lot of respect from these two opponents for each other.
Yeah, that makes for a good game too when they appreciate and respect each other. So, anyway, you have a good day, Brian. It's always good to talk to you, and let's just hope Alabama has a good way, and also Auburn. Auburn's got a tough game against Texas A&M this weekend. That's going to be a big game.
Out in College Station, that game is.
Yeah.
Coach, it's always an honor. Have a great week, sir.
Okay, thank you.